do you think you are, little princess? Phylis's mother's tone and bitter words were often heard as she grew up in a violent and abusive home. While Phylis always felt a closeness in her heart that someone was protecting her, she believed God did not love her. As more and more destruction and physical violence surrounded her, the negative words became louder and louder. One single incident would forever change the direction of Phylis's life. While words can never be forgotten, they can be forgiven. Phylis Mantelli grew up with an alcoholic, narcissistic mother who rarely gave her words of affirmation or encouragement. How do you rebuild self-esteem when all you've seen and heard is chaos? How do you break away from a toxic parent who raised you? With her journey and awakening to a steadfast love of Jesus, Phylis will lead you through her story of breaking through the pain and becoming a daughter who loves her mom unconditionally. This is the Counterculture Mom Show. I'm your host, Tina Griffin. This is our second week on the topic of forgiveness because the Lord told us we needed to double down on this talking point. So here we are with week 2. I'm with author and speaker, Phylis Mantelli. Phylis, how you doing today?
I am good.
You have one wild story, multifaceted. I know a lot of people tuning in, watching, listening to this will be like, yep, that was my life. Or, man, that was me as a parent. I don't know how else to get started besides just digging right in here. You're the author of the book, UnMothered, Life with a Mom Who Couldn't Love Me. Wow.
Yes.
Married with 2 grown daughters and a grandmother, or Fifi, to 3 adorable grandchildren. With the hellish upbringing that you had, did that cause you to know for sure what you didn't want to be like in life, to make sure that every day you're giving the love that you never felt that you received?
Such a good question. Yes. And I will say I did it not so well. Because what I discovered along the way, I became a trauma-informed coach 3 years ago.
Wow.
And I figured out that what I did was, yes, I wanted to be the best mom in the whole world and give all of these beautiful things to my girls. But I did it with a fear and trepidation that I instilled in my girls because the trauma that was still in my body, kind of came out in all these areas of them doing different things. Everything was fatalistic in my mind. I just was trying to protect them so much. And so now, I went back and told my girls, I did that wrong. And they're like, yeah, we know. They're very beautiful and forgiving children, adults now. But, yeah, I think that we go into it thinking we want to be the complete opposite. But what we have to remember is we still have to dig into our story of past and figure out those residual things that live. And God took me on that journey because I do believe it's body, mind, spirit. We have to connect to all of those things to be able to be the healthiest we can be. And I would say also, there is no such thing as a perfect parent.
Right. No, I mean... Yes, that's all I got to say is I completely agree with you. And the bummer is usually we figure out what we should have done or could have done at a certain stage with our kids. So then we figure that out, we mold ourselves, and then the kids get older and now it's a whole new set of challenges and changes. So I feel like I'm constantly trying to play catch up with raising our 4 teens in the home right now. There's so much I want to unpack with you. I definitely want to talk about your past traumatic situation as a kid, how your mom treated you, what she said, why you think that happened, but then also how the trauma manifested in your body physically, spiritually, emotionally, that you now realize you had to unpack. But take us through that journey. What was it like in your home as a kid? What was your mom like? Where did she come from? What kind of background did she have? Why do you think she was the way she was?
Well, I think that's so important to go back through the generations. I'm like I probably want to write a book about generation dysfunction just alone. But I think that when we talk about forgiveness is like, if you can go back, it's like, it's hard to look at a parent that is supposed to be your safe place and they're not. And then the bitterness comes in and you just want to walk away. And I will say, sometimes you have to. I never look at someone's situation and say, do it this way. And this is the way, it's going to be great. It's like everyone's situation is different. But here's the thing. if you can look back through the generations and kind of understand the why. So my mom was taken from her mother at 9 years old, her and her two brothers. My grandfather was a very mean person. And he took the mother to court, which in those days it just made no sense. But she did talk about her past a lot, but she said he had people come in the court and lie, saying that my grandmother was an alcoholic. And so he got all three kids. But what he did is he made my mother the wife and the mom, because he had, she had two brothers and her. So she was the only girl. I have talked to other people that grew up with her, and they said, Phylis, she was such a joyful young girl, always had a smile on her face as a teen, and they witnessed him hitting her. He chased her friends out of the house one time when she tried to bring friends over. So I understand where her trauma started and where the non-parenting thing came in. And then, if you look at my dad's history, he was the youngest of six kids, and his mom didn't want any more children and was having an affair. So when he was 6 months old, his mom left with her lover and moved to San Francisco. So all the kids got separated. So if you look at my parents,
oh my gosh,
they came together in this faltered way where there was no love story there. It was just kind of like, well, it's time to get married. Okay, I'll choose you. And I had this whole story. My dad told me this whole story, and I said, Dad, that sounds so sad, because my dad was like, I didn't want to get married, but my boss said, it's time to get married. You're in your 30s.
Oh
and
my gosh.
He danced and found my mom and was like, well, it was her or this other girl, and I picked her. And I'm like, that is so unromantic. And so coming together and then you build a family, it's like there's no firm foundation there at all. And so my mom had an affair, and my dad was a long distance truck driver. So my mom was having an affair, and she found out she was pregnant. Well, the man she was having an affair with is Japanese, Filipino, and Mexican. My dad is like Spanish and Dutch, and like just totally two different nationalities. And so she panicked. So the beginning of my story is I'm walking home from school one day. I meet this new friend that had just moved across the street. So we're talking happily. It's hot. I just want like a glass of water when I get home or whatever. And she looks up, like we're right in front of our houses, and she says, why are two men carrying your couch out to this big semi truck? And I run into the house, my brother's behind me, and all of our furniture is gone. And there's a few little things. And my mom said, get your stuff. We're leaving. We have to walk to the park. And I'm like, I'm 8 years old. And I'm like, what's going on? And where's my dad? Where's my dad? Where's my dad? And she gave me that look that if you ask again, you're going to get beaten across the room. And so I don't. And we walk to a park, and she tells us to get in a car with this strange man, which all the bells and whistles go off in my body. My little tiny body knew something was wrong. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get in this car. And she's like, get in the car. We get in the car. These two beady eyes are looking at me from the rearview mirror. And she says, say hi to this person's name. And he says, hey. And then we drive off. And I literally start a new life the next day in another town, and never got to talk about my dad. Now, from my dad's point of view, my dad said I came home to an empty house and no family. And this is 1965. So there's no phones, there's no computers, there's no cameras, there's nothing. So he had to continue working. He couldn't just leave work. So he's coming home on the weekends going, what did the truck look like? What color was it? What did the men look like? Like, he had to do investigative work. It took him 3 months to find us. And by that time, my mom looked very pregnant. So she had my sister. My sister's 8 years younger than me. And we started a new school, and there was trauma, but we didn't even know what that was. It was like, imagine your life at 8. Like, my grandson is going to be 8 in December. And I'm like, that was my age when one day I come home from school and everything has changed. Now, I will tell you, my mom and dad drank a lot. There was physical violence already in the home, but that was my home.
And yeah, it's like Even though it might have been dysfunction, it was consistent dysfunction, not everything uprooted. And I can't even imagine that. That's literally somewhat like you've been kidnapped, really, by half of your party. I can't even wrap my brain around that.
Hi, I'm Linda Bamber Olson, the inventor of the Wave Watch, the world's first frequency therapy watch. It features over 1,100 targeted frequencies combined into 150 playlists for ease of use. These sounds are acoustical and they move through your body, through your skin and your bones. So that's why we have so many testimonies for aches, ADD and ADHD, allergies, colds and flu, dental, emotions, headaches, joints, kidney stones, nerves, organs, skin health, and so many more.
Use code TINA for $100 off. Visit wavewatch.com/Tina. That's wavwatch.com/Tina.
Here are 7 signs you may have a parasite. My biggest issue, because I did have parasites, was teeth grinding, skin irritation, and unexplained digestive issues. The other indication that you could have a parasite is eating after 7 p.m. and craving sugar. My name is Kim. I'm the worm queen and the inventor of the Parafy Kit. Let's go over it. Parafy, it's your parasite cleanse. Sustain, it's your candida and your bad bacteria cleanse. Metal Flush, it's your heavy metal detox. Cinnabon, it's your binder. You take Parafy and Metal Flush 3 times a day and Sustain 2 times a day. You can take them all together. The kit comes with instructions. Cinnabon is your binder and you take that at night. We have a nut-free option. We ship worldwide. The Parafy Kit is for ages 3 and up. Use Tina as your 10% discount code. Find it on rogersfood.com.
Parents, have you checked out our Counterculture Mom app yet? You can get it at Google Play, iTunes Store. It'll keep your sanity and keep you from losing any more hair. If you are a parent that feels overwhelmed when it comes to keeping up with the constantly changing technology and influence on your kids, this is the app for you. Download the Counterculture Mom app. Just because Hollywood dishes up sex, violence, pornography, and drug use in all facets of entertainment doesn't mean we have to allow it in our homes. Our goal is to put the power back in your hands to help you choose a safe media environment for your kids. Our app is not just loaded with the current problems in pop culture, but solutions on how you can address these different topics with your kids. It also has talking points, videos, you name it. In turn, your children will know how to make their own wise media choices and develop a healthy worldview as a result. So keep your hair and download the Counterculture Mom app now by going to Google Play, iTunes Store, or you can also visit our website, counterculturemom.com, and know how to safely navigate the pop culture chaos and what media you want to allow through your front door. Phylis, over commercial break, I'm telling you, okay, you got 5 minutes to summarize the last 40 years of your life. It's like, how do you do that? Yeah. But I know there's some loose ends. I definitely know that the audience will want to know what happened. Can you tell us, when your dad took 3 months to find you guys, whatever happened with that scenario? Was he able to get you back? Did they agree to stay separated? What happened?
Yeah. So she was living with the person, my sister's father. And so that they weren't getting back together. And so my dad, they made an agreement that he would come and get us when he could. So being gone, I called him the Disneyland dad. He would come in, buy a bunch of gifts, and then he'd have to bring us back, and we'd be crying, saying, "Don't let us go back to that evil place," because now she's physically fighting with my sister's father. They're having physical violence, lots of drinking, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was just a crazy time. I will say, at 16, my sister started calling me mom, and my brother had already ran away and left at 12. And so my dad came to me because my brother had lived with my dad at that point. And so my dad came to me and said, "I know it's really bad there. Do you want to come? I think now I could take care of you. You're almost 17. Like, it's more like you'll be roomies or whatever. He doesn't have to nurture me as much."
Right.
And I said yes. So I lived with my dad from 16 on, but that created a block because then my sister got the abuse on her own, and my mom ended up leaving her one night by herself to go to the bars, and they called. I had the neighbors call me and say, "Can you come get her?" And I couldn't at the time because we only shared one car and my dad wasn't home, and I lived in a different town. And so my mom got her taken away with her dad, and so then my mom became homeless. So it has been
my word.
Yeah. So it's just been an in and out at that point relationship where I just had no contact with my mother. And even when I did, it was just so dysfunctional at that point that I just didn't even, there was one point when I would meet someone new and they'd ask about my parents and I'd say my mom was dead.
Well, to you,
I just didn't even, yeah, I just didn't even want to talk about her. And so, so when you talk about like trauma and stuff, it's like you deal with what you can at the moment. But I was a very rageful teenage young adult girl, of course, not surprising. And I dabbled in all the things, I was with any person that showed attention to me. I was having sex with them. I loved cocaine. So I was like, on the weekends, it was like, let's party hard. I always held jobs. I was, functioning, but on the weekends, everything was a free for all, like drinking, smoking cigarettes, drugs, I just let me escape. And I didn't realize like that really was my body trying to numb out. And I would say for the, different trauma styles is I'm a fawn or freeze. Like I will put a wall up and just pretend I'm invisible. And my whole life I was taught when I cried, I didn't realize I'm actually a highly sensitive person, but that was not nurtured in me. And so every time I would start to become emotional, it was degraded. And it was like, stop crying,
right,
and
shut
just
down.
buck up. And so I learned how not to cry. I learned how to be really tough. I could get back on my feet with anything that was going on. But inside my body was in such conflict because that's not normally how God made me. And so...
And you were never
hard.
And you were never probably listened to when you were a child either, just pushed off and not even paid attention to. They obviously didn't care about your feelings. Your mom didn't care about your feelings. Now, granted, you go back generation before, she was in that same environment. It's like you repeated what she did. It's just crazy. Yeah. Can you paraphrase? And I know it's tough, but in like a minute or so, how long of a span of time it was when you moved back with your dad? You then hardly had any kind of chat with her at all via phone. When it was short and sweet, distant, a lot of anger, resentment still there. She probably didn't even apologize or even realize what she did. Or if she did realize, she didn't care how it affected you. Give us a quick little summary of that to when the day was when you got a phone call saying nobody else wants to take care of your mother. You interested? And then how God restored your relationship.
Yeah. So you're right. There were these sporadic phone calls and it was like, I'm couch surfing or I'm over here, I'm in a homeless shelter, and I didn't care. Like I was so angry with her. And, but there was just this tie, like she would always call me because I would get mad, but it was like there was something just like digging into that. My sister was so confused because she's living with a whole different family now. And so she has a whole nother siblings and all that stuff. And she was just confused by all of it. And my brother and my mom just like fought horribly. And so he just would come in and then walk away and come in and walk away. So we all had this kind of like stepping stone. We didn't know where we placed our relationship with her. But what happened was she started getting older to where she could get some kind of Social Security and like, some things that she could live on. And so she got like HUD housing and she came back into the town where I was.
Wow.
Well, she lived in a studio apartment up above a bar. And apparently one night she fell and broke her hip. They took her to the hospital and they said she was so incoherent and so drunk they couldn't give her any meds and she was in deep pain. So she screamed all night. I felt so bad for those nurses. Finally, in the morning, they got enough information out of her where they said, who can we call? And she had an address book in her purse and she said, call Phylis.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And so they called me and they said, your mom is here. She needs hip surgery. She's asking for you. This is what happened last night. They told me the whole thing. I said, I'll be there. I was very conflicted, but at that point I had been, so there's a whole backstory, but I'm in my second marriage now. I have a young baby, and I just felt this compassion for motherhood. And so I went there, and she looked like a broken bird. Like she was crying and just so sad. So it started a long journey. It wasn't something, I can't sit here and say like all forgiveness fell apart, but there was a drawing in. I was not a Christian at that time, but there was this drawing in. I've always felt God's presence, even when I was a child. It was such a big pool. And so I just felt his presence saying like, just take care, like help her right now. Like, so that journey, like I'm going to say, you have to set up hard boundary lines, because it wasn't like, oh, I took care of my mom and everything was great. It was such a hard, it was 16 years of taking care of her. She broke another hip, and she got a hip replacement. So there was like a whole journey, but
unreal. Yeah. Have you been feeling a little off lately? Many of us have. The crazy thing is, you're not sick. You're being poisoned. GMOs, glyphosates, heavy metals, microplastics, nanobots, and graphene oxide in vaccines. These toxins are everywhere. But there is a solution that detoxifies and goes after the root of the problem with all natural ingredients that work at the nano and cellular levels. It's called Masterpiece. This organic formula has 2 natural ingredients, zeolite and sea plasma, both powerfully structured together. The clinical studies are unmatched, and they've got thousands of testimonials with incredible stories. One user said, phenomenal product. I've only been taking it for a week and my energy levels are through the roof. To get Masterpiece, just go to masterpiece.hcs.com. That's Master, P-E-A-C-E, by hcs.com, or click on the link below. Enter code Tina at checkout to get our special pricing. It's literally $1 a day. Let's ditch the poison. If you're a busy mom like me, juggling kids, home life, and everything in between, you know healthcare is a huge decision. What's worked for me and my family for over a decade? MediShare. Over the years, I've had all 4 of my kids with MediShare, gone through 2 major surgeries, and never once stressed about the bills being paid. MediShare is affordable, saving us up to 50% compared to other healthcare options. And I love knowing our money never ends up supporting things that don't align with our values. MediShare offers 24/7 access to telehealth services as well. Have a sick kid in the middle of the night? Not a problem. They've got your back. So if you're looking for healthcare that fits your family and your values, I can't recommend MediShare enough. Call today at 1-866-88-BIBLE and be sure to mention Counterculture Mom when you enroll. That's 1-866-88-BIBLE. And join the thousands of families like mine who found healthcare that truly cares about what matters most.
Now, the forgiveness part, I will say along the way, and that's in my book, at 35 years old, I became a Christian. My mother never spoke beautiful words to me. She just wasn't that kind of person. But I will say, you know, God always reveals himself. And one day I had to clean my mom's feet, kind of poetic. She had an infection on her leg. So the visiting nurse came in and said, here's how you wash her feet, put the ointment on, glove up, put the ointment on, wrap her feet. And we had to do this every 2 days. I was kneeling down, washing her feet, and her hand came on my head, and she said, "You're a really good daughter, and I bet you're a really good mom." Oh. And I froze because I was like, who is speaking these words right now? And I realized at that moment, God knew I needed to hear that. I just needed to hear those words. It didn't change anything. I'm not wrapping this up in a nice little bow. Mm-hmm. When I would try to bring up these hard times, she would say, it wasn't that bad. You were fine, blah, 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 all these things. But in that moment, I needed to hear those words.
Well, she was masking. She knew in her gut. I mean, she was probably living with that guilt forever. At the same time, she was also living with the hurt and pain of the previous generation that she's experienced. Phylis, where can we get your phenomenal read? I have to get my hands on this book. I can think of people right now that need to read it. UnMothered,
Yeah.
Life with a Mom Who Couldn't Love Me. Phenomenal. It's on Amazon. Also your website, Phylis Mantelli, that's Phylis Mantelli, MANTLLI.com. Do you think that your mom is saved? Do you think she's up in heaven with the Lord?
I do. My mom was actually a very praying mom. She just didn't have a faith that God loved her.
You rock, Phylis. Keep up the excellent work.
Thank you.
Go get 'em, lady.
Thanks for